Welcome to the LeadUP Podcast. We are in our success series focusing on alumni stories from the University of Pretoria, a leading institution in the African continent with over 100 years of history behind its name. I'm Lennox Wasara, your host and an award-winning radio presenter as well. Today, I'm truly lucky because I get to speak to one of the most resilient people that I know, Dr. Perekeme Mutu, who's also known as Mr. Deadline. And he completed his studies with a Doctor of Philosophy in Law from the University of Pretoria, which is also the best law faculty in Africa and ranked 60th in the world. Presently, he's a post-doctoral fellow with UNESCO Education in Africa, and rightfully so. He's also a researcher at the Center for Child Law at the University of Pretoria. Dr. Mutu grew up in Nigeria and moved to South Africa, where he completed 2 qualifications simultaneously. That's truly impressive. And working as a security guard and a car washer to fund his studies, his hard work, his resilience, and positive attitude changed his life for good. Dr. Perekeme Mutu, it's so good to speak with you today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here this morning to at least explain and tell my story and my experience so people can learn from it.
Yeah, I mean, with reading your story, I was like, wow, like, how is this even possible? But here you are, against all odds. But, you transitioned from obviously being growing up in Nigeria to move to South Africa for your studies. How was that transition for you?
It was quite challenging in terms of culture, because when you migrate from your country to another country, there's variation in terms of culture, how to relate and all that. So trying to adapt to the way of life and all that was quite challenging. But, with resilience and all that, I was able to get over it.
Yeah, there's multiple things, cultural challenges that one can experience. But what are some of the ones that come to mind? Is it language or what was it?
When I came to University of Pretoria, one of the areas I found challenging was the fact that, you just go into the library and you have this computer where you have to search for books and all that, That is not the system we have in Nigeria. You have somebody to assist you if you are looking for books and all that. So adapting to that kind of system was quite challenging. Then also interaction, with people as well, We are very open in Nigeria, that you can, meet somebody on the street and, but in South Africa, I find it very kind of a little conservative where people keep to themselves, So you have to push hard, to get to, know somebody and all that. So those are some of the issues, I find challenging a little bit.
Yeah, true. A lot of people, like some of my Nigerian friends as well, tell me that, they struggle to find their food around, the Hatfield area in Pretoria. But Sunnyside had some food for them, where they could get food. Did you have the same challenge as well?
No. When I came, I didn't find that challenging because, like you said, Sunnyside has Nigerian food. So once I needed Nigerian food, I just drive there and get it. So it wasn't a challenge for me in that regard.
Yeah. Interesting. And taking you back to some of those challenges you experienced around just the system of the university, the library and so forth, what do you think allowed you to actually get beyond those challenges? Because studying is one challenge, getting through the academic content, and then also now having these, teething issues of, the softwares and stuff that you need to get used to.
Yes, I will say it's determination. Once you are determined that, look, you don't want anything to stop you from achieving your goal, you just have to push through. Another challenge I had in Nigeria, if you don't know how to type, like your assignment and all that, you can write the assignment on paper, you give it to somebody, type for you. Here, you have to also type your assignment yourself and all that. That was very challenging. So I have to start counting. If I have an assignment to submit, let's say 2-3 weeks, I have to start early. Some of the your assignments has typographic errors and all that. So, but somehow, like I said, with determination and all that, you just have to push through. And that determination, led me to, where I am today and was able to conquer some of those challenges.
Yeah. Another challenge you had was to do 2 qualifications at the same time. How does that even work?
My first degree was in political science, from 2007 to 2010. Then I went to do my honors, at UNISA. So after my honors, law has always been something I wanted to do, so I needed to shift career. So I did my master's in multidisciplinary human rights. So I came back to University of Pretoria. So after my master's in multidisciplinary human rights, then my PhD too was tilting towards that direction. I knew that, look, I would be disadvantaged if I don't have that legal background. So while I was doing my PhD in University of Pretoria, so I went to register for my LLB at UNISA, since it was distance learning and all that. So while I was doing my PhD at University of Pretoria, I was also doing my LLB at UNISA. So it was quite challenging, I must tell you. It wasn't a child play, but here I am.
Yeah,
I was able to scale through.
You also had to make it through funding yourself. You had to work washing cars, also worked as a security guard. Take us through that.
That was another story entirely, yes. When I came in 2007, actually I have a sister here. She was like a pillar behind me. She came to do her PhD here. So when I came, I got my admission, I came. Our plan was, she had a funding from Nigeria for her PhD study. So when she came, she had funding here from University of Pretoria. So the plan was to use that fund to sponsor my first degree. But unfortunately, there was change in government in Nigeria. So the whole funding arrangement was cancelled. So I was like, what do I do? Cannot drop out at this moment, So, I have a friend who had a car wash. During the day, I go to my classes during the day. Then after my classes, around 3 or 4, I go to the car wash. That wasn't too far from university. So wash till about 7 o'clock in the evening. Then I go home. So that was what I did. So what I did was I had to sign an agreement with University of Pretoria. So the money I was paying, whatever money I make was paid into my account, So at the end of the day, I agreed that, certain amount of money will go into my student account, So I did that for the first year. After the first year, I realized I had not raised enough money to even shake the school fees, So, and the rule here is that for you to register for the next academic year, you have to, kind of clear your backlog, So, and that was where my sister came in, and it was, like I said, there are periods in your life whereby you need somebody, to push you, over the edge, It's a make or break, period for me where, if not for that intervention, what I've achieved today wouldn't have been possible, So she came, so I think it was about 20,000, so still owing about 20,000 or so. So she intervened and cleared that for me. So immediately that, I was able to register for my second year. So I went back. I was actually in the car wash when somebody came and he was recruiting, looking for security guards, and all that. I said, okay. So I went in and, I was employed. So I started working as security guard. So what I was doing, I attend my program then, or my duty then was I worked 3 days, 3 nights, and 3 days off, So those 3 days, if I'm working day shift, I can't go to work. So after this, I get my lecture note from my colleague. But when I'm doing night shift, I work, I attend my lecture. Then by 5:30, I leave for work. Then, then sometimes my lecture start at 7:30. So from work straight, I just come, because then I had my bag with my toothpaste, my toothbrush, everything in my bag, I just come straight from work to school, attend my first lectures, clean up in the bathroom, attend my first lecture, then go home, get ready, come back. Then after my lecture again, go back to work, then my best period were my 3 off days, then I can concentrate on all that. Reasonably, the money was better than what I was getting from car wash, So every month, once, I think me and UP will sign a contract where every month 2,000 was being deducted from account to offset the disease. So that was going on. So I did that till I finished my first degree, even my honors, at UNISA. Then after that, I bought a car. So one of the things that actually really saved me, or should I say fortune, was when I was working as a security guard my site was diplomats. I was providing security for diplomats. I was working with diplomats, So our security company closed down at some point in time. So at that time, I bought a car already. So what I now did was to continue to pay for my school fees. I started providing transport for these diplomats, either their children, taking them to school or dropping them at the airport and all that. So that became another source of funding, my studies, even my LLB, and all that, So that was the struggle, in terms of funding my fees.
Yeah, quite a lot. I mean, you said a lot of things there. And I was thinking that having to do this for a year plus is a long time. I mean, doing something for like a week, you can get along with it quite comfortably. But, after 3 months to a year,
I did it for like
easy.
2 years. So you can imagine combining that with your studies, and all that. So it was, I did it for like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. What was it? Was it something you were saying to yourself that kept you going? Like, what was the secret?
Yeah, it's something, once you set goals for yourself that, you are determined to achieve that goal and you don't want anything, any barrier, to prevent you from achieving those goals. You do everything within your power, so that kept me going that, I cannot fail.
Yeah.
So this was a inner drive to succeed in life,
Yeah, no, true. I find that interesting because in the process of you hustling, as you called it, that hustle was going, but then as it closed down, the entrepreneurial mindset you had sort of allowed you to keep on going. You saw another opportunity. Was this the case for all your life, or perhaps it started in that moment?
No, I would say all my life, because I grew up with my mother who brought me up, and she's a business woman, So while growing up with her, I was assisting her with her business and all. I'm managing her business and all that. So that entrepreneurial spirit has always been with me. So it didn't just start at that moment.
Yeah. And then as you reflect, obviously in a different environment, you're in South Africa, it's a foreign land, and you're having to hustle, as you mentioned. What was perhaps the biggest lesson you picked up in that time about hustling, as you called it?
The truth about the matter is that when I will say, look, there are, I work with, while I was working, I had other contemporaries, those who were working together as security guards, and very intelligent guys, So, and when I come back from this thing, they will see me with my books and all that, At times I try to advise them, look, this shouldn't be your final destination, You should try and see, at least UNISA is there. You can enroll and see what you can do with your life and all that, But some of the time I realized that it wasn't something they are willing to, but, like I said, looking back, putting myself with those people, purposely, you realize that, look, your life has transformed significantly. In fact, most of them are still working as security guard today, I ran into some of them, So the lesson I learned from that is that, look, when the opportunity, is there, you see you must grab it. You have to grab it. So it's a lesson I learned that, look, life is what you make out of it, regardless of the challenges you go through. You must not give up. Always aim higher, and you get there.
As you say, aiming high. As I guess as you aim high, your perspective changes as well.
Absolutely.
And I'm keen to know how your perspective on success also changed. Did it evolve in any way during that time? Because I guess it might have been different when you started off, and perhaps now you're a doctor. It might be different.
Yeah, the issue of success, success, when you want to define success, look at success, it depends on the parameters you want to use to measure what success is all about. You want to measure it based on financial gain, material gain, or your career gain. What measures do you want to use to measure in terms of success? Yes, looking back, from where I am coming in terms of academic career and all that, I think to a large extent, I would say, yes, I'm successful. But I'm still, hoping to go beyond this. But at this stage, given where I'm coming from, because like I said, a few years back, I never knew I was almost dropping out of school, to getting to a point where I have a bachelor's degree in political science, honors, masters, and LLB in a PhD, So you could see the light, So I would say reasonably, in terms of academic career, I'm, successful, but I'm still aiming higher. So it just, like I said, it's relative. What, in terms of defining success, depends on the parameters you set for yourself and what the yardstick you want to use to gauge success.
Yeah. One of the ways you managed to attain success was to literally run away from all social gatherings.
Absolutely.
To a point that your friends were calling you, the term for you, Mr. Deadline. Tell us a bit about, how focused were you? Were you that focused?
Very, very focused. Even now, I'm still very focused. Like I said, very focused, and that is, I don't go to parties, because, like I said, combining, especially when you are working as a security guard and then having to study, so you have very limited time, to do things and all that. So once in fact, UP had quite a number of activities then. I can't remember, I didn't attend any of those activities. So once I'm invited, and I said, look, I'm always having deadline, even now. The deadlines are still there, So it was, you need to be focused, I tell people there's no two ways about it. If not for those sacrifices, it wouldn't have been. Then when I was also doing my PhD, you can imagine combining a PhD and LLB together. There was no room for any social activity. So I'm always either in my reading table, the little time I have, either I'm sleeping, I'm going around my business. So there's no time for social activity. So you really have to manage your time properly.
So I guess your friends must change that from Mr. Deadline to Dr. Deadline, because the deadlines haven't changed.
The deadlines haven't changed. I'm still there.
But I mean, surely one, listening, one does think, surely there's got to be balance. Did you have some balance though, at least? And perhaps have you seen the value of balance? I know circumstances were a little bit different at the time, but I don't know if you have any insight on how you are striking a bit of a balance now.
Well, I'm a Christian. The only most of the social activities I go to church, not on a regular basis. Then once in a while, since I'm married, I take my wife out to go out for this. But party occasionally, yes, if you invite me for a marriage, or they say if I feel okay, I have the time and it's important for me, I go, but not all social gathering.
Yeah.
So still, it's not easy, but I still try to, here and there attend some of this, but it's not easy balancing it at all.
Yeah, that's true. And perhaps just a thought on how you kept your mental health in check at the time, because it sounds like it was heavily loaded on your mind, your body, and your time.
It was, yes. That is, at times, you want to have mental breakdown, and look, it wasn't easy, but, like I said, the zeal to succeed was overwhelming, it was so overwhelming that, look, though you have the mental fatigue, and when will this hustling end? When will this end, Well, somehow, you just have to, once you think you want to have mental breakdown, you just look at the goal that, look, after this, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, so you keep pushing, and, so that kept me going.
Yeah, that's interesting. You've shown so much resilience, so much success, and where to next?
I started my postdoc, with UNESCO Education Law in Africa. Then I also, since I have my LLB, I'm also looking at practicing, get registered here. So that is another area I'm looking at. So I'm basically right now, since I'm in research and all that, mostly in the academic field right now. So looking at trying to publish and then see if I become a professor someday. So those are the goals at the moment.
Yeah, no, wonderful. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully the next time that we do meet, I'll address you as a professor.
Yeah, thank you so much. And then I also want to use this opportunity to tell every young man, young woman out there that, look, shouldn't allow your moment, the barriers facing you at the moment, to prevent you from achieving your goal, always push the boundaries and you get to where you want to go. So So that is my advice to young people. And I want to thank your crew. Thank you for having me, giving me the opportunity to tell my story. And thank you once again.
Awesome. And as you mentioned that, I thought about the University of Pretoria. How did they aid you in becoming successful?
University of Pretoria, it was immense. Apart from my first degree, my master's, yes, I got a bursary. I wasn't paying for my fees, so that was awesome. At least that took away the financial burden. Then even my PhD, I got some funding. Especially at your PhD level, you need a supervisor, somebody that will push you through, guide you, give you the appropriate advice and guidance. And I met Professor Anne Skelton, who was there for me, So by limitation here and there, and she guided me through, and it was so University of Pretoria, it's immense, has been immense in terms of propelling me to where I am today. So I'm grateful to University of Pretoria, that I can say.
Wonderful. I wish I could talk to you all day, but I can't. But all I would say is continued success to you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And keep on shining the light that you are.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate it. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you for listening to my conversation on the LeadUP podcast as I'm speaking to Dr. Mutu, who's sharing a story about success, and truly inspiring that you just got to hang in there. Don't give up. The day will get a little better, as is expressed. You can find the podcast at up.ac.za/LeadUP. Could be Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We are right there as well. This season, we're releasing our episodes on the last Monday of every single month. This podcast is proudly produced by the University of Pretoria's Alumni Relations Office, and our production team includes Samantha Castle, Elna Schutz, and our sound engineers are Louis Kluter Productions. Till we meet again, do take care, and nothing but love and light from our team.